one of the main reasons that I wanted to come on tonight, I was excited to come on, is my experience with the Bass Nation. So, that's a really neat organization, grassroots, organized by the Bassmasters. Phenomenal. I'm kind of embarrassed because I didn't know completely what it consists of. And now that I've experienced what I have, I mean, I'm extremely excited about this year. So I belong to a little club called the Heartland Bassmasters. They're here in the neighboring city of DeSoto, Hillsborough area. And, we only have about 14 members, 7 boaters, 7 non-boaters right now. We're open for new members, boater or non-boater. We just like to try having an equal amount. There are a lot of guys that fish the non-boater side that actually have boats that can actually go to both sides. But very, very grassroots organization for an inexpensive price. For our club, it's $30 membership fee. For MoBass, the state, it's $30. And for Bass Nation, it's $30. So $90 to start. But our tournaments are only $50 per guy. And we try to have 5 to 6 bass tournaments a year. And basically, we hold money back for that. And what we're trying to do is get to the state tournament. In the state tournament, what you're doing is you're fishing against all the rest of the Missouri clubs. And, there's probably about 30 different clubs. And I think the last 2 years we have taken about 6 to 7 boats. And it's been an eye-opener. I really did not know what this consists of. So back in 2019, I fished the state tournament at Lake of the Ozarks, and I qualified for the regional central division. The regional tournament, they take 10 of the Missouri boaters from each club, from the whole entire state, 10 boaters and 10 non-boaters. And we go to this regional event, the Central Regional. It's 8 states and 3 countries that we're fishing against. And that adds up to anywhere around 80 to 120 boats, just depends on, how many people show up. This year, in the 2020 event at Toledo Bend, the countries did not show up because of the COVID. So that only left like 80, I think it was 87 anglers, I think is what it was. So we went to Toledo Bend. I qualified at Lake of the Ozarks. Pretty neat little deal there. I caught everything on top water on a spook. And that was a phenomenal. It was the end of September going into October. So it was a really neat event. But I ended up in 6th place overall, made the state team, went to Toledo Bend. Day one, let me back up a second. In practice, I get down there. I did not know what to expect. I had 5 days to practice. Hurricane blows in. First day of practice, there's supposed to be like 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. 6 inches of rain is what they were estimating.
Wow.
So I noticed that on the radar, I kept on watching it. I did not make a room reservation because I didn't know what was going on. And then I waited till the last minute. So all these people from the coast were coming up north, and every hotel was full. So I get down there. I ended up having to stay in a little town of Joaquin, Texas, which was on the Sabine River, way up north, which was a blessing because I ended up fishing up there the first couple days of practice because the way the storm was blowing, it came across the lake about halfway and just kind of went to the east, and it didn't really affect the upper end of the lake too much. So in practice, the very first stop, I went in, flipped a black and blue jig with a sapphire trailer on a boat dock. The first stop, I caught a 5 and a 4 pounder, and I'm like, this is interesting. So I start looking at the map. I realize that I'm 55 miles away from takeoff, and I'm like, oh man, everybody has warned me about the wind on Toledo Bend. This is going to be ugly. I got to get down lake and try finding something closer to takeoff. So I went down. I actually found a couple on Mike Russell's Bag 5 Baits, the XD5 and 6. I found a good little school, but it was getting hammered. The pressure was just unbelievable. So during tournament, I decided to run up to Hugsley Bay area. That's where I started, and I went up a little bit higher each day after that. But I was just flipping this black and blue jig around and actually had a decent bag the first day that put me into 6th place. So day 2, anything possible that went wrong that day. There's no way that I should have won that tournament after my day 2 performance. I lost 9 fish total. They just came unbuttoned. They were biting real funny. It was kind of that front material that came in from the hurricane. It was, the 2 days afterwards, it affected it really bad. The picked a winner, Albert Collins, who's been to 4 Bassmaster Classics. He was picked to win this thing, and he comes in with only 9 pounds. So I went from 6th place to 16th. They take the top 20th for the last day, and I found one little area that I could catch some topwater fish in, and the wind picked up that second day, or the third day, and I tied on a whopper plopper and went to that spot and caught 2 5-pounders right off the bat. And I'm like, I got 10 pounds in the boat, and it's only been taken, I had over 10 pounds in the boat, and it's only been taking them 10 to 11 pounds to win this thing each day. The leader only had like 22 pounds. And I'm like, I'm sorry, bud. There's 25-mile-per-hour winds, but we got to make that run. I know I can catch them up that river. So I ran all the way up there again in that wind, took my time, took me like an hour and 30 minutes to get up there. And I get up there and I go to the first dock and I pitch that black and blue jig on the back corner of this big old dock and catch another fish right at 5 pounds. And at that time I had 3 fish over 15 pounds. I was super stoked.
Wow.
So I ended up catching 8 keepers total. I ended up with 19 pounds, the biggest bag of the tournament by almost 7 pounds. And I won the Central Championship. So, just that alone was a huge, huge success for me. A lot of people in the past with Kenny's reputation, he's a really good fisherman, but, a lot of people just said that I always rode his coattail. So that right there was, enough for me to prove to myself that, I was decent enough to be able to compete with guys like that. I mean, you start looking at the roster on that, and there's guys that fish the Open. There's multiple guys that made the Bassmaster Classic through this thing. So then I go to Pickwick Lake for the national championship. I'm looking at the roster, and, Hellabass was there, actually. So, the roster was really, really stacked. I mean, I started some of these guys. Albert Collins was there again because he qualified for his state and got to go. 48 anglers only. 3 spots go to the Bassmaster Classic. The top 3 guys go to the Bassmaster Classic. So you start looking at these guys, and all of them, Matt Robertson, he fishes the Opens. He's on fire right now. He's won 2 of the Opens this year. He went to the Bassmaster Classic last year. He's going again this year. I mean, just, all these guys that fish the Open, and they're the top 10 in every division. And then, multiple of them have been to the Bassmaster Classic. So, being on a lake that I don't know was, just really overwhelming. And then you start, figuring out who these guys are, and it's like really overwhelming then. But, just that opportunity for 48 anglers and 3 of them go to the Bassmaster Classic. I mean, it was a phenomenal experience. But saying all that, on the way back from that Toledo Bend, we had 30 to 35-mile-per-hour winds. I ran it pretty darn hard on the way back because I knew that I had a big bag, and I actually left up there 20 minutes earlier than what I had planned. I had planned to fish another 20 minutes later, but with having 19 pounds in the boat, I decided to leave a little bit early, and I'm so thankful I did. My motor started making noise about halfway back because we had 25 to 30-mile-per-hour winds. Every 4 to 5 foot, the boat was coming out of the water, so I got the motor pretty hot coming back, ended up blowing the gear within a mile of takeoff. I ended up blowing the gear out the lower unit, and a guy from Arkansas picked me up. As soon as I came down off plane, I jumped up and started waving people down, and luckily, Brandon from Arkansas picked me up and gave me a ride back. I had 3 minutes to spare at that time to get back in, and he took me back in. Called the tournament director before we did all the transaction and all that. The co-angler didn't have calling balls. He actually forfeited his fish that he had. He had a couple fish, so it would have moved him up, got him a little bit better of a check. So, you know, I was thankful for that. But, you know, just a crazy experience, and, you know, just going from an all-time high to, oh my God, I'm not going to get back in, to, you know, a guy helping you out, a competitor, at say the least, to be able to take you in and then you win the tournament. I mean, it's just a unbelievable feeling. But